Hi, friends. It's so good to see you. We're going to talk Torah in a second, but I'm going to repeat what I said at the very beginning of the broadcast to make sure that everybody hears it. This coming week is a special week called the Week of Goodness, redeeming our hostages through good deeds. And this has been created by families of hostages, spearheaded by Hirsch Goldberg Poland's parents, Rachel and Jonathan, who have demonstrated the most deep love I've ever seen and the most steadfast endurance and passion and clarity that I have ever witnessed. Um, they are launching a week where we are going to be participating with the rest of the Jewish world in solidarity with hostages and their families, and with the hopes that our learning could reverberate in the universe to be part of their release. Um, so, 9 o'clock Monday morning, as part of the day of learning within the week of goodness, 9 o'clock will be an extended broadcast on the Torah portion, and then at noon on Monday, New York time, I'll be giving a class called The Rabbinic Imagination and the Revolution of Zionism. And then at 1 p.m. will be the global siyum, the global completion of the learning, um, which will be broadcast from Israel, that we'll participate in as well. There's a Zoom link for that. So if you haven't seen the links already posted, I will ask my colleagues to post them at the very end of the broadcast. It's good to see all of you, and a special shout out to my beloved friend Alex Weinberg, who is in Akko, in the north of Israel right now, sending love to us, and we can be anchored in Artsenu, in our homeland, through you. It's good to send you love and share the learning. Let's talk some Torah. And I'm going to connect this Torah portion with next week's commitment to learning. And I really do hope that all of you will make it a point to be present at one or both of our special learning sessions on Monday, and then certainly for the Siyum, which will be at 1 p.m. New York time, 8 p.m. in Israel on Monday. So it's Parshat Chukat, and one of the things that happens in the Torah portion, which often gets overshadowed because we don't want to talk about it, excuse me, and because there's so much else to talk about. So in Parshat Chukat, the famous moment where Moses is told to speak to the rock by God, and the rock will give the people water, happens. And you know where the story goes, but let me tell it as if we don't. In this moment, Miriam has just died. And in the Torah, it seems coincidental. For the rabbis, in their imaginative interpretation, it is causal. When Miriam dies, there's no more water. When there's no more water, Bnei Israel, our ancestors, the Israelites, complain bitterly to Moses. And they are destroyed that there is not water. They're distraught. And of course, we can't blame them, even though tradition judges them, for losing their mettle, because here they are in the middle of the desert. There's no water. What would you do? And they gather up against Moses, and they complain as they always have, and as we likely always will. And the way they complain triggers in Moshe a reaction he has not shown yet. And he gets angry. First, he asks God what to do. God says, go speak to the rock. In fact, if you look closely, God says to Moshe, take your staff and go speak to the rock, which feels like a very complicated setup of Moshe. Here he is holding his staff and is told to go speak to the rock, but what is in his heart? And this is where we're going to begin our real conversation this morning. Moshe just lost his sister. He's in sharp grief. And here comes the people rallying at him. So not only is he feeling grief, he's also feeling pressure. Not only that, it's been building up for a long time because he's been leading a stiff-necked people through the desert for years. And now he lost his sister. It's too much. It's too much. So Moshe hits the rock, and he calls the people rebels. And because of this sin, at least the Torah says, he is not permitted to enter into the land of Israel. The punishment that he endures for this is not being able to enter. Now, we could have a conversation about the fairness of the punishment And yes, Susie asks a good question. Did he previously use his staff to hit a rock for water? And yes, he did the first time around, which is earlier in the Torah. In this week's Torah portion, God says, take your staff and go talk to the rock, which makes it feel a little bit like a setup. But certainly his anger is present. So I want to talk more about that because as Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Shoah and the founder of a school of therapy called logotherapy, has wrote and has been read millions and millions of times in many languages, there is a space between stimulus and response. In that space, there is a pause. In that pause, there is a choice. And in that choice lives our freedom. Now, I would never speak to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moshe, our teacher, as if I understand his experience. I don't. Nor would I channel Viktor Frankl's great wisdom, assuming that I understand it. I don't. Speaking of Moshe Rabbeinu, my son Moshe is right here. Hi, my love. Thanks for being my teacher. In our moment of seeing Moshe Rabbeinu in the Torah, not talking about you, love, him lose his patience, we have compassion for him because it's been building for so long. Now, next week, we're going to be connecting our learning to the families of the hostages on Monday as part of the Week of Goodness that they have launched. But I want to read you a comment of a different Hirsch, connecting it in my heart with Hirsch Goldberg, Poland. This is a comment by Rabbi Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, the founder of what many believe is now modern Orthodoxy, a very important Torah commentator in Germany. And he writes, at God's command, Moses took the staff again in his hand out of the sanctuary where it had rested for nearly 40 years. And with this badge of his mission coming from God, he assembled the nation. But when after nearly 40 years, he saw himself directed to the people with the staff of God again in his hand, the staff which nearly 40 years ago he had required for the people as testimony and credential of his very mission, it hurt him grievously to think that in all these 40 years, and with all that he had done in these 40 years, he had still not won the confidence and trust of his people. And in the bitterness of these feelings, and we would add, and in his grief about having lost his sister just a few verses before, in the bitterness of his feelings, he forgot his orders and spoke, instead of quietly addressing the rock, words of deep reproach to the people, calling them Hamorim, rebels, and in passionate agitation struck the rock, whereupon water in abundance gushed forth and satisfied the thirst of the people and their animals. This is the commentary of Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, who says that Moshe's sin was his growing impatience with the Israelites. And this is a sensitive read of Moshe, poor Moshe. This wasn't a simple disobeying. This was a very human response to terrible stress. And what I see, and what I want to amplify today, and why I feel so strongly about participating in this week of goodness that UJA will be participating in as part of all of Am Yisrael learning together on Monday in solidarity with the hostages and their families, learning so that their release may come sooner, maybe even before we begin our learning on Monday, if we're blessed. This stressful moment can lead us to be so short with each other, so quick and aggressive in responses. The pressurized world that we inhabit makes responding thoughtfully really hard. It's broadcast 1091. We've been at this a long time, but it feels longer that it's day 279 since October 7th. Have you felt shorter in patience, more reactive? I have, here and there, maybe more often than I've realized. And we have role models in this work, my friends. Hirsch Goldberg Poland's parents Rachel and Jonathan, Omer Nutra's parents, Ronen and Omra, and Orna, and countless others who show up with passion and with grace. Passion and with grace. They speak with kindness and love. I will never forget hearing Rachel say at one of the rallies that UJA has convened here in New York and helped convene all around the world, especially in Israel, for her to talk to Hirsch from her heart and say, survive, live. If you can hear us, know that we love you. That loving language, that warm, fierce heart, I've never seen anything like it. I don't blame Moshe for losing his patience. How could anyone blame Moshe? His punishment feels so cruel. And I know the different ways that commentaries have looked at it. But what I say to you now, friends, and what I hope we will say to each other on Monday, is this is how to keep our hearts human. This is how to love those held in darkness. This is how to show the world what it is to be human and fight, to be textured in all of these ways. The week of goodness begins on Sunday with singing at Tachana Rishona, the first station in Jerusalem, at 8 o'clock. It'll be live streamed for everyone, and there'll be a link. You can click on the links that have been shared, and you'll see them again. Monday will be a day of learning all over the world. We'll be learning at 9 o'clock, and then we'll be learning at noon, both times on Facebook here. Tuesday and Wednesday are good deeds, Maasim Tovim, in the merits of the hostages. You can sign up at the link that you have seen. You'll probably see one more time during this broadcast. On Thursday, a new Torah will be dedicated. The family of Hirsch Goldberg Poland has commissioned the writing of a new Torah, which will be dedicated with song and prayer on Thursday. And then on Thursday also, Hafrashat Challah, separating challah. When you bake challah, there's a tradition of separating some of it. There will be 120 Hafrashot Challah to take on the plight of one of the hostages, to learn their story, and to dedicate the gathering for Hafrashat Challah in honor and in solidarity with one of the hostages. Friday, we will bring in Shabbat. Kabbalat Shabbat is happening all over the world. And here are some more ideas to join in the mission. I'll just read them and then we'll say goodbye for now. To light a candle for the hostages. To clean up a littered area or beach near you. Saying a special prayer at life cycle moments. Taking on the challenge of Meatless Monday in honor of the hostages who are vegetarians, like Hirsch. To call a loved one. To write a thank you note to someone who made a deep impression. To donate unused items to those in need. And friends, here's what we're going to do. We are going to be strong, and we are going to be loving, and we're going to be kind. We're going to keep on doing what we do, which is to learn and to love and to grow and to choose to wake up every day knowing that we have the capacity to do good for others, to wake up in wonder that we are alive. These are incredibly beautiful deeds that next week will bring more of us forward into the work of being alive, into the work of loving each other. Rose, it's powerful to see that you're going to bring this to your church. Thank you for doing that. Maybe you can bring your church into conversation with a local synagogue so that the work can bring children of God who believe in that God differently into conversation. This is a moment of deep stress. And again, I don't judge Moshe for being reactive. But maybe he provided us a model. Moshe, Rabbeinu, and Rachel Imenu, Rachel Goldberg. Rachel, our matriarch. We are called. We are called, just as we were at the beginning of this broadcast 4.5 years ago, to place our hands on our hearts and to remember that they're beating, to remember that we have the capacity to feel, and we can choose our response even in the most stressful of moments. Rachel is showing us that. I need to learn that. I think we all need to learn that. So, let's take a deep breath, friends. Today is Thursday. We're going to learn together tomorrow on Friday. And then on Monday, there'll be 2 opportunities to learn. At 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, we'll have an extended broadcast learning the Parsha with even more devotion than ever before. And then at noon on Monday, we'll have a conversation about Talmud and Zionism. Everyone's welcome to join us here on this Facebook page again. And then at 1 o'clock on Monday will be the Siyum. If you're on Instagram, I will do my best to broadcast here too. I cannot guarantee that I'll be able, but certainly on UJA's Facebook page, you'll be able to see it. All right, for now, friends, please take a breath. Sing with me. Let your heart beat before we begin singing. Remind yourself that your heart is beating and that you have the freedom. Our ancestors have bequeathed us the freedom they fought for. To breathe, to be free, to choose our response even in the most dire of moments, and to know the capacity that we have to make a big difference. That through our hearts, through our deeds, through our learning, through our love, through Torah itself, we can bring our family home. Believe that with me. Put your heart into it. Sing Hatikva with everything you've got, friends. Open your hearts. Kol od balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayim netzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot alpayim להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.